Hello and welcome back to our Excel VBA tutorial series. In our previous video, we navigated the essentials of if, then, else, and ElseIf statements in VBA. Today, we're pushing further into this exciting territory as we learn how to construct complex conditions using logical operators and explore real-world examples of if, then, else statements. So let's get to it. First, let's discuss the and, or logical operators. When we use AND between two conditions, both must be true for the combined condition to be true. If even one condition is false, the combined condition also becomes false. On the other hand, the OR operator only needs at least one condition to be true for the combined condition to be true. It's only when both conditions are false that the combined condition becomes false. Let's open our VBA editor and modify our macro from last time to demonstrate this. This code checks if the value in cell A1 is greater than 10 and less than 20. If not, it checks if the value is 20 or above, or 10 and below. Let's take this new code for a spin and see what it does. Let's start by placing a value of 15 in cell A1. This value is both greater than 10 and less than 20. So it meets the first condition in our if, then, ElseIf statement. With the VBA editor opened, let's run our macro. You can either press F5 while in the VBA editor or switch back to Excel, press Alt plus F8, select the macro from the list, and click Run. As we anticipated, a message box appears stating, "The value is greater than 10 and less than 20, perfect." Our first condition works as expected. Now let's try a different value. Replace the 15 in cell A1 with a 25. Now our value is greater than 20, which meets our second condition in the ElseIf statement. Running the macro once more, a new message box appears, stating, "The value is either 20 and above or 10 and below." As expected, our ElseIf statement has correctly identified that the value is greater than or equal to 20. Finally, let's test the other part of the ElseIf condition by placing a value of 5 in cell A1. Running the macro now, we should see the same message as before, since the value is now less than or equal to 10. And there we have it. Our macro works flawlessly, identifying and responding correctly to different conditions using logical operators in our if, then, else, if statement. This proves the flexibility and power of logical operators in VBA. Go ahead and play around with different values in cell A1 and observe how the macro responds to them. Now let's take a look at some real-world examples of if, then, else statements. Imagine you're a teacher and you want to categorize your students' grades stored in column A. In this example, we're using if, then, else statements to assign letter grades based on numeric scores. A score of 90 or above gets an A, 80 or above gets a B, 70 or above gets a C, and anything less gets a D. We'll test this as well, so you can see it in action. To begin, let's start with a score of 95 in cell A1. This is a high score, so when we run our macro, we should expect an A grade. Now open your VBA editor and run the macro. As you can see, an A appears in cell B1, adjacent to our score of 95. Excellent. Now, you might have noticed that our macro has filled the rest of the cells in column B up to B30 with a score D. This is because our macro is currently designed to loop through the cells from A1 to A30. When it encounters empty cells, which are treated as 0 in Excel, it categorizes them as D because their value is less than 70. If you were working with a full set of 30 scores, the grades would correspond correctly to each score.
Remember, when you use this code in your real-world projects,
Be sure to adjust the range in the for each statement to match the actual range of your data to avoid extraneous grades. Alternatively, you could modify the code to skip empty cells, but that's a topic for another video. Now let's continue with our exploration of if, then, else statements and logical operators in Excel VBA. Let's try a slightly lower score. Replace the 95 in cell A1 with an 85. We've dropped below 90, but we're still above 80, so our grading system should assign a B this time. Run our macro again, and there you have it. Letter B pops up in cell B1, indicating our grade. Next, we're going to drop down to a 75, a score that should equate to score C. Replace the 85 in cell A1 with 75 and run the macro once more. You should see letter C appear in cell B1. Finally, let's see what happens when we put a score of 60 in cell A1. This score is less than 70, so according to our grading system, it should be a score D. Run the macro one last time, and you'll see the letter D show up in cell B1. And there you go. We've tested our grade assignment system with various scores and verified that it is working correctly. It's pretty amazing to see how we can use if, then, else statements and logical operators to implement something as complex as a grading system, isn't it? But remember, the best way to learn is by doing. So feel free to play around with different scores and observe how the macro assigns grades. In the next video, we'll continue advancing our VBA skills, so make sure to join us for that. In the meantime, practice creating your own complex conditions and try out different real-world examples. Remember, the best way to learn is by doing. And, as always, keep exploring and experimenting. Feel free to share your own examples or challenges you've encountered in the comments section below. I would love to hear about your journey. And if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Excel VBA tutorials. Until next time, happy coding!